17-year-old Devin's sneakers slapped against wet concrete as he sprinted through the parking garage. His heart hammered against his ribs. Behind him, 3 men dragged a well-dressed stranger toward a black van. The man's terrified eyes met Devin's across the shadows. An expensive watch caught the dim streetlight. Definitely not from this neighborhood. Devin's mom always said to mind your own business. But this felt different. He gripped the tire iron tighter, phone trembling in his other hand. The stranger's muffled cries echoed off concrete walls. "Please!" the man gasped. Devin had a choice. Walk away like nothing happened, or risk everything for a complete stranger. What Devin didn't know was that the man being kidnapped held the power to transform not just his life, but his entire community. And in 60 seconds, everything would change forever. But let's go back to where this all started. But Devin's morning had started like any other, with a choice between breakfast and bus fare. 5:30 a.m. The alarm buzzed in the cramped apartment Devin shared with his mom, Angela, and 2 younger siblings. Through paper-thin walls, he heard Mrs. Johnson's baby crying next door. Devin sat up on the couch that doubled as his bed. His little brother Marcus, age 12, and sister Keisha, age 8, were still asleep in the bedroom they all shared. In the kitchen, Mom counted crumpled bills at the table. Dark circles under her eyes told the story of another double shift at the hospital. "Morning, baby," Angela whispered, not wanting to wake the others. Devin watched her sort the money. $23. Rent was due in 2 days. "I can skip lunch today," Devin offered quietly. "No." Angela's voice was firm. "You eat, I'll figure it out." Devin felt the familiar weight in his chest. 17 years old and already drowning in responsibilities that shouldn't be his. His father died when Devin was 14. Car accident on his way home from his second job. Since then, Devin had become the man of the house by default. "I got this, Mom," he said, pocketing the bus fare she left on the counter. He'd walk the 3 miles to school instead. At Jefferson High, Devin slipped into his favorite class, civics with Miss Rodriguez. While other kids dozed off, Devin hung on every word about government and policy. "Who can tell me the role of the state government?" Miss Rodriguez asked. Devin's hand shot up. "State governments handle education funding, healthcare programs, and infrastructure. They're supposed to bridge the gap between federal policies and local needs," Miss Rodriguez smiled. "Exactly. Devin, you have a natural understanding of how systems work." After class, she pulled him aside. "Have you thought about law school? Political science? You have real leadership potential." Devin's stomach rumbled as he considered her words. "Miss Rodriguez, I can barely afford lunch. College feels like asking to fly to the moon." "Don't let circumstances define your ceiling," she said gently. "Promise me you'll keep dreaming big." After school, Devin headed to his part-time job at Hassan's corner store. Mr. Hassan, a Lebanese immigrant, had become like a grandfather to him. "Devin, my boy," Hassan called out as the bell chimed. "How was school?" "Good. I learned about state budgets today." Hassan chuckled. "Always thinking about the big picture. That's why I trust you with my register." Devin worked until 8 p.m., earning $40 for the day, enough to help with groceries and maybe keep the lights on another week. On his walk home, Devin stopped to help Mrs. Williams carry her groceries up 2 flights of stairs. She was 83, and her arthritis was getting worse. "Bless you, child," she wheezed. "Your mama raised you right." "Just doing what anyone should do," Devin replied, though he noticed most people walked right past Mrs. Williams every day. Back home, Devin found Marcus struggling with homework at the kitchen table. "I don't get fractions," Marcus complained. Devin sat down beside him, using pizza slices drawn on paper to explain the concepts. When Keisha needed help reading, he switched to her book about butterflies. "Devin, why do you always help everyone?" Keisha asked, looking up from the pages. "Because that's what Dad would do," Devin said simply. "He always said when someone needs help, you don't walk away." Angela returned home at 11 p.m., exhausted from cleaning hospital floors. Devin had saved her a plate of rice and beans. "How was work?" he asked. "Long. But good news, Mrs. Patterson said they might have a day shift opening next month. Same pay, but I'd be home for dinner." Devin's face lit up. "That's amazing, Mom. Don't get too excited yet. 50 people applied." Late that night, Devin studied by the light of his phone when the electricity got cut off again. He was reading about the state governor's new education initiatives. "Sometimes I picture myself in a suit," he whispered to himself, "making decisions that actually matter, helping kids like Marcus and Keisha get real opportunities." He thought about his father often during these quiet moments. James Washington had worked 2 jobs but never complained. He taught Devin that dignity came from helping others, not from what you owned. "I'm going to make you proud, Dad," Devin whispered into the darkness. "Somehow, I'm going to make it out of here and lift everyone else up too." In this neighborhood, everyone knew everyone. Devin was the kid who broke up fights before they started, who helped elderly neighbors carry groceries, who tutored younger kids for free. People called him the good one, the boy who'd probably make something of himself if he got the chance. But chances were rare around here. Most kids Devin's age were already working full-time or caught up in street life. The lucky ones might graduate high school. Devin refused to accept that his zip code determined his destiny. Every night, he fell asleep dreaming of a future where his family didn't have to choose between rent and food. He had no idea that tomorrow night, his entire world would change forever. He was just taking a shortcut home when he heard the muffled shouts echoing through the darkness. 8:47 p.m. Devin cut through the parking garage beneath the Riverside Shopping Center to avoid the longer route home. His phone battery was at 12%. He needed to save every bit of power. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting eerie shadows between concrete pillars. Half of them were burned out, creating pockets of complete darkness. Devin's footsteps echoed in the empty space. He walked quickly, eager to get home and help Keisha with her reading homework. Then he heard it. Car doors slamming, raised voices bouncing off concrete walls. Devin stopped, his heart rate picking up. Every instinct told him to keep walking. This wasn't his problem. In this neighborhood, you minded your own business if you wanted to stay safe. But something about the voices made him freeze. "Get him in the van, now!" The voice was rough, urgent. "Stop fighting, old man, or this gets worse!" Devin crept closer, using parked cars as cover. Through the shadows, he could make out 3 figures surrounding a 4th near a black van. The kidnappers looked familiar. Tommy Rodriguez. He'd seen him dealing drugs near the school. Rick something, who'd been in and out of county jail. And Vince Martinez, who everyone knew to avoid after dark. But it was their victim that made Devin's blood run cold. A well-dressed man in his 50s, wearing an expensive suit that looked completely out of place in this neighborhood. His hands were zip-tied behind his back, a gag around his mouth. "The governor should have stayed out of our business," Tommy snarled, shoving the man toward the van's open door. "Boss wants this clean," Rick added. "No witnesses, no traces." Governor? Devin's mind raced. These weren't just random criminals. They were talking about someone important, someone powerful. The victim's eyes were wide with terror above the gag. He struggled against his restraints, but the 3 men easily overpowered him. Devin felt his phone buzzing with a text from his mom. "Home safe. Love you." He looked at the message, then back at the scene unfolding 30 feet away. His hands were shaking. This wasn't mugging. This wasn't a robbery gone wrong. This was something much bigger, much more dangerous. "We need to move," Vince said, checking his watch. "Cops change shifts in 10 minutes. The victim made eye contact with Devin through the darkness. Even from this distance, Devin could see the desperate plea in the man's eyes. "Help me." Devin's father's voice echoed in his memory. "Son, when someone needs help, you don't walk away. Doesn't matter who they are or what it costs you, you do what's right." But this wasn't helping an elderly neighbor with groceries. This was 3 dangerous men committing what looked like a kidnapping, or worse. Devin's rational mind screamed at him to leave. Call 911 from somewhere safe. Let the professionals handle it. But there wasn't time. In 60 seconds, that van would be gone, and whoever this man was would disappear forever. "I can't live with myself if I don't try," Devin whispered. He looked around the garage, searching for anything that could help. A security camera hung from the ceiling, but it was clearly broken. Lens cracked, wires hanging loose. They'd chosen this location perfectly. Isolated. No witnesses. No working cameras. Devin spotted a tire iron someone had left beside a pickup truck. He grabbed it, the cold metal heavy in his palm. His phone showed 3 bars of signal, enough to call for help, but even if the police came immediately, it would take them at least 5 minutes to get here. These men would be long gone. The victim stumbled as Tommy shoved him again. "Get in the van!" "Wait!" The man mumbled through his gag, looking directly at Devon's hiding spot. Devon realized with horror that the victim had seen him. If these criminals figured out there was a witness. "What are you looking at?" Rick followed the man's gaze toward Devon's position. Devon's heart hammered against his ribs. Every muscle in his body tensed. This was it. The moment that would define everything. He could run, disappear into the night and pretend this never happened. Or he could step out of the shadows and become the kind of person his father raised him to be. The victim's eyes met his one more time. A silent plea that said everything. "Please don't let them take me." Devon gripped the tire iron tighter, pulled out his phone, and made his choice. What happened next would test every ounce of courage Devon had ever possessed. What happened next would test every ounce of courage Devon had ever possessed. Devon's thumb found 911 on his phone as he crept between parked cars. His hands shook as he dialed, keeping his voice to a whisper. 911, what's your emergency? Kidnapping in progress. Riverside Shopping Center, parking garage, level B2. 3 men, black van, a license plate. Devon squinted through the darkness. "I can't see the plate clearly." "Sir, are you safe? Do not approach." Devon hung up. The police would come, but not fast enough. He needed a distraction, something to buy time and create chaos. Car alarms. Devon grabbed a rock and hurled it at the nearest car window. Crash! The alarm screamed to life, echoing through the concrete space. "What the hell?" Tommy spun around. Devon hit another car, then another. Soon 3 different alarms were wailing, their lights flashing like a disco. "Someone's here!" Rick shouted over the noise. "Find them!" Vince ordered. While they scrambled to locate the source, Devon circled around to the van. The victim was still standing beside the open door, hands bound. Devon's plan crystallized. Disable their escape vehicle. He slammed the tire iron into the van's front tire. Hiss. The air rushed out. "The tire!" Tommy spotted him. "There, it's some kid!" Devon looked up to see 3 angry faces rushing toward him. The victim's eyes went wide with shock and terror, not for himself, but for Devon. "Hey!" Devon shouted, stepping into the open. "Leave him alone!" Tommy laughed, pulling out a knife. "Kid, you picked the wrong night to be a hero. Run!" Devon whispered to the victim, using the tire iron to cut through the zip ties. The man's hands came free. He ripped off his gag. "Son, get out of here! They'll kill you!" "Stay behind me," Devon said, surprised by how calm his own voice sounded. "I know the way out." Rick lunged forward. Devon swung the tire iron, catching him in the shoulder. Rick howled and stumbled back. "This way!" Devon grabbed the man's arm. They ran toward the exit ramp, but Vince cut them off, blocking their path. "Not so fast!" Devon's mind raced. He'd delivered groceries to this building dozens of times. He knew every corner, every shortcut, every service entrance. "Follow me," he told the victim. "Trust me." Devon led them toward a maintenance door he'd seen workers use. Behind them, heavy footsteps pounded against concrete. "Through here!" Devon shouldered open the door. They burst into a narrow service corridor lined with pipes and electrical boxes. The space was barely wide enough for one person. "Where does this lead?" the victim asked, breathing hard. "Loading dock, back exit." They squeezed through the corridor as shouts echoed behind them. The kidnappers were too big to move quickly in the tight space. "Almost there," Devon encouraged. They emerged into the loading area. Freedom was 20 yards away, the back exit that led to the street, but Tommy had circled around. He stood between them and escaped, knife gleaming under the loading dock lights. "End of the line, hero boy." Devon stepped protectively in front of the victim. His heart pounded, but his hands stayed steady. "You don't want to do this," Devon said. "Police are already coming." As if summoned by his words, sirens wailed in the distance. Tommy's face twisted with rage. "Because of you!" He charged forward with the knife raised. Devon dodged left, then swung the tire iron in a wide arc. It connected with Tommy's wrist. The knife clattered across the concrete. "Go!" Devon shouted to the victim. They sprinted for the exit as police sirens grew louder. Behind them, Rick and Vince burst through the maintenance door. Devon and the victim reached the street just as 2 police cruisers pulled up, lights flashing. "Officers!" the victim called out. "Here!" 4 policemen jumped out, weapons drawn. "Those men in the loading dock," Devin pointed back. "They tried to kidnap him." The officers moved quickly. Within minutes, they had all 3 kidnappers in handcuffs. "Son," one officer said to Devin, "that was incredibly brave and incredibly stupid." Devin managed a weak smile. "My mom's going to say the same thing." The victim, still breathing hard, placed a hand on Devin's shoulder. "Officer, this young man saved my life. I want that on record. We'll need statements from both of you," the officer replied. Devin looked at the man he'd rescued for the first time in proper light, well-dressed, distinguished, with kind eyes that seemed familiar somehow. "Are you hurt, sir?" Devin asked. "Thanks to you, no." The man extended his hand. James Mitchell, Devin, Washington. They shook hands. Mitchell's grip was firm, grateful. "Devin, you have no idea what you've done for me tonight." "Anyone would have done the same thing," Devin said automatically. Mitchell's eyebrows raised slightly. "No, son, they wouldn't have. Most people would have walked away." A paramedic approached to check them for injuries. Devin waved him off, but noticed a scrape on his palm from the tire iron. "Let them check you," Mitchell insisted gently. "You took real risks tonight." As the paramedic cleaned Devin's hand, Mitchell stood nearby, watching with something like wonder. "How old are you, Devin? 17? Where do you go to school?" "Jefferson High. I'm a senior." Mitchell nodded thoughtfully. "And what do you want to do after graduation?" Devin hesitated. His usual answer felt embarrassing next to this well-dressed man who clearly had money and status. I want to help people. Maybe study government, policy work, make things better for communities like mine." Mitchell's eyes lit up. "That's remarkable. You have real leadership instincts." "I just did what felt right." "Exactly. That's what leadership is." The police finished processing the scene and taking initial statements. They'd need both Devin and Mitchell to come to the station for full reports. "Mr. Mitchell," the lead officer said, "we'll escort you both downtown." "Actually," Mitchell said, "I'd like to make sure Devin gets home safely first. It's late and his family is probably worried." Devin checked his phone. 3 missed calls from his mom. "Sir, you don't need to worry about me," Devin said. "You should get medical attention or whatever you need." Mitchell smiled. "Devin, after what you did tonight, making sure you're safe is the least I can do." As they walked toward the police cars, Mitchell quietly pulled out a business card. "I meant what I said about leadership," he told Devin. "If you ever need anything at all, please call me." Devin accepted the card politely, glancing at it briefly before slipping it into his pocket. What he didn't know was that this simple piece of paper would soon change his life forever. But the stranger's offer would leave Devin questioning everything he thought he knew about kindness. At the police station, Devin sat in a small room giving his detailed statement to Detective Martinez. Every few minutes, he caught glimpses of James Mitchell through the glass partition, speaking earnestly with other officers. "You did good tonight, kid," Detective Martinez said, closing his notebook. "That was smart thinking with the car alarms." "Is Mr. Mitchell okay?" Devin asked. "Thanks to you, yes. Guy's lucky you were there." When Devin finished his statement, he found Mitchell waiting in the hallway, still in his rumpled suit but looking remarkably composed for someone who'd just been kidnapped. "Devin," Mitchell stood up immediately. "How are you feeling?" "I'm fine, sir. Are you okay? That must have been terrifying." Mitchell studied Devin's face with genuine surprise. Here was a teenager who'd risked his life, and his first concern was still for the victim. "I'm perfectly fine, thanks to you." Mitchell reached into his jacket. "Listen, I want to give you something." He pulled out a thick envelope. Even from a distance, Devin could see the cash inside. "Mr. Mitchell, I can't take that." "Devin, you saved my life. Please let me show my gratitude." Devin stepped back, shaking his head. "Sir, I don't need payment for doing what's right." Mitchell blinked in astonishment. In his experience, everyone wanted something. Money, favors, connections. But this kid was genuinely refusing a reward. "Are you sure? This could help with college or your family?" "I'm sure," Devin said firmly. "Helping people isn't something you do for money." They sat down on a bench in the station hallway. Mitchell found himself genuinely curious about this remarkable young man. "Tell me about yourself, Devin. What's your family like?" "It's just me," My mom and my two younger siblings. Mom works at the hospital. She's amazing. Worked twice as hard as anyone should have to. And school? You mentioned wanting to study government? Devin's eyes lit up. I love civics class. Learning how policies affect real people, how the government can actually make a difference in communities like mine. Mitchell leaned forward, increasingly impressed. What kind of difference would you want to make? Education funding, mostly. Healthcare access, job training programs. Devin spoke passionately but humbly. There are so many smart kids in my neighborhood who just need real opportunities. You've thought about this seriously. Hard not to when you see it every day, Devin said simply. Mitchell asked about Devin's plans after graduation, his family situation, his part-time job. With each answer, his respect for the teenager grew. Here was someone who understood civic responsibility not from textbooks, but from lived experience. Someone who helped elderly neighbors without being asked, who tutored younger kids for free, who chose courage over safety. Devin, you have something special. Real leadership potential. Devin looked down at his scuffed sneakers. I just try to do right by people. Exactly. That's what real leaders do. As they prepared to leave, Mitchell pulled out his business card again. I know you don't want money, but I meant what I said about leadership. If you ever need anything, advice, a reference for college, anything, please call me. Devin accepted the card more carefully this time, reading the name. James Mitchell, followed by a phone number. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. I really appreciate that. They shook hands in the parking lot. Mitchell's handshake lingered a moment longer than necessary. Devin, I want you to know, what you did tonight showed more character than most adults display in a lifetime. I just did what my dad taught me. When someone needs help, you don't walk away. Mitchell smiled. Your father raised an exceptional young man. As Devin walked toward the bus stop, Mitchell called after him. Devin, promise me you'll call if you need anything at all. I will, sir. Take care of yourself. Devin waved goodbye and headed home, the business card tucked safely in his wallet. It was just after midnight, and he still had homework to finish. He had no idea that the simple card in his pocket bore the official seal of the state governor's office, or that James Mitchell had been making mental notes about scholarship programs and youth leadership initiatives throughout their entire conversation. Over the next few days, Devin began noticing things that didn't quite add up. The first strange thing happened at breakfast. Devin's mom scrolled through news on her phone. Says here there was an attempted kidnapping of a prominent figure downtown, Angela read. Police aren't releasing details for security reasons. Devin nearly choked on his cereal. They weren't naming Mr. Mitchell. At school, Devin noticed increased security, 2 additional guards, a police car parked across the street. What's with all the cops? His friend Carlos asked. Probably routine, Devin replied, but something felt connected. In civics class, Miss Rodriguez made an announcement that caught Devin's attention. The governor's office implemented enhanced security protocols this week. Apparently, there was an incident involving state officials. Devin's hand froze. Governor's office? State officials? After school at Hassan's store, the older man seemed unusually chatty. Haven't had any visits from officials, have you, Devin? Devin looked up sharply. What kind of officials? Just heard there might be follow-up interviews about that downtown incident. Why would Mr. Hassan know about follow-up interviews? That evening, Devin's mom mentioned something odd. Got a missed call from State Administrative Office, probably a scam, but the 916 area code looked official. Devin's pulse quickened. 916 was Sacramento, the state capital. Walking home, Devin spotted a black SUV near their building. Tinted windows, government plates. It pulled away when he approached. The pieces weren't making sense. Enhanced state security, official calls to his mother, government vehicles in his neighborhood. At home, Devin finally examined James Mitchell's business card closely, simple black text with a phone number. At the bottom, something he'd missed before, a small embossed seal. He squinted at it under the lamp. Too small to read clearly, but it looked governmental. Devin's mind raced. Mitchell had been well-dressed, articulate, clearly important. The kidnappers mentioned the governor and legislation. Now the governor's office was implementing new security measures. Devin stared at the business card, a wild thought forming. What if Mr. Mitchell wasn't just any businessman? The kidnapping, the political references, the official attention his family was getting. What if the man he saved was someone much more important than he'd realized? Devin's hands trembled as he reached for his phone. He needed to know the truth. He needed to find out exactly who James Mitchell was. But he had no idea that discovering the answer would change everything he thought he knew about that night, and about his future. When Devin finally learned the truth, everything made perfect sense. The next day after school, Devin headed straight to the library. His hands shook as he logged into the computer terminal. He typed James Mitchell into the search bar and held his breath. The first result made his world stop spinning. Governor James Mitchell announces new anti-corruption legislation. Devin's eyes went wide. He clicked the link with trembling fingers. A photo loaded on the screen, the same kind eyes, the same distinguished face, the same man Devin had rescued from kidnappers 3 nights ago. James Mitchell wasn't just anyone, he was the governor of the entire state. "Oh my God," Devin whispered, staring at the screen in disbelief. More search results flooded the page. News articles, press releases, official government photos, all featuring the man Devin had risked his life to save. Devin scrolled frantically, pieces of the puzzle clicking into place. Governor Mitchell targets organized crime with new legislation. State leader faces threats over anti-corruption campaign. Mitchell administration cracks down on criminal organizations. Devin's heart pounded as he read article after article. Governor Mitchell had been pushing aggressive new laws against organized crime, laws that would shut down illegal operations across the state. The kidnappers hadn't been random criminals. They were part of something bigger, something that wanted Governor Mitchell silenced, and Devin had stopped them. "I saved the governor," he whispered, the magnitude hitting him like a truck. Devin thought back to that night, seeing everything with new clarity. The kidnappers mentioned the governor and legislation. Mitchell's surprise at Devin's civic knowledge, the official phone calls, and increased security. It all made sense now. He kept reading, learning about Governor Mitchell's background. Born in poverty in East Oakland. Worked his way through law school, spent years as a public defender before entering politics. He understands, Devin realized. He knows what it's like to come from nothing. More articles revealed Mitchell's policy focus. Education funding for underserved communities, healthcare access, job training programs, everything Devin had talked about wanting to change. The governor had listened to Devin's passionate speech about helping his community because he'd lived it himself. Devin scrolled to recent news coverage about the kidnapping attempt. Governor Mitchell safe after foiled abduction. Heroic teenager prevents political assassination. Sources confirm the rescue was carried out by a local high school student who has chosen to remain anonymous. Devin's head spun. A political assassination. He hadn't just saved a life. He'd prevented an attack on the state's leadership. The weight of what he'd done crashed over him. If those kidnappers had succeeded, if Devin had walked away that night, he thought about Mitchell's humility during their conversation. The governor had known Devin didn't recognize him, and he'd let Devin just be himself. No mention of power or position, just 2 people talking. Devin remembered Mitchell's genuine interest in his dreams, his family, his community. The governor had seen Devin's character without any pretense or performance. "He could have told me who he was," Devin murmured, "but he wanted to know the real me." Devin's phone buzzed with a text from his mom. Home for dinner in an hour. He stared at the business card he'd pulled from his wallet. The small embossed seal was now clearly visible in his mind. The official seal of the governor of California. James Mitchell had given him direct access to the most powerful person in the state, and Devin had tucked it away like any other business card. His hands shaking, Devin pulled out his phone and dialed the number on the card. It rang once, twice. "This is James Mitchell." Devin's throat went dry. "Governor Mitchell, this is Devin Washington." "Devin!" The warmth in Mitchell's voice was immediate and genuine. "I was hoping you'd call. How are you, son?" I just found out who you are, sir." Mitchell chuckled softly. "I figured you might look me up eventually. You're too smart not to be curious." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I wanted to know the real you, Devin, not the version of yourself you might have performed for a governor. And I'm glad I did." Devin felt tears welling up in his eyes. "Sir, I had no idea what I was really doing that night." "You did exactly what you always do, son. You saw someone who needed help and you helped them. That's who you are. But if you had known, you might have hesitated. You might have thought about the politics or the consequences instead of just doing what was right. That's what made your actions so pure. Devin sat in the library, overwhelmed by the conversation. Devin, I've been thinking about you constantly since that night, about what you said regarding your dreams for your community, about your character and your potential. Sir, I'd like to discuss some opportunities with you. Can we meet this weekend? There are some things I'd like to offer you. Devin's voice caught. Opportunities? Full scholarship to the state university, paid internship in my office, but more than that, a chance to make the kind of difference you talked about. Devin couldn't speak. Everything he'd ever dreamed of, everything he'd thought was impossible. Devin, are you there? Yes, sir, I don't know what to say. Say you'll meet with me Saturday morning, 10 a.m. State Capitol building. We have a lot to discuss. As Devin hung up the phone, he realized his life had just changed forever. The boy who thought helping others was just what you do was about to discover that sometimes doing what's right opens doors you never knew existed. What the governor offered would change not just Devin's future, but his family's destiny forever. Saturday morning, Devin stood outside the state capitol building wearing his only dress shirt and a borrowed tie from Mr. Hassan. His palms were sweating as he stared up at the massive dome gleaming in the sunlight. Security guards checked his ID against a list. Devin Washington? Right this way, son. Governor Mitchell is expecting you. Walking through marble hallways lined with portraits of past governors, Devin felt like he was stepping into a different world. Staffers in expensive suits rushed past, carrying important-looking documents. A kind woman named Sarah led him to an elevator. Governor Mitchell speaks very highly of you, she said with a warm smile. The elevator opened directly into the governor's office suite. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the entire city. Behind a massive oak desk sat James Mitchell, but he immediately stood and walked around to greet Devin personally. Devin, you look sharp, son. Mitchell's handshake was warm and firm. How are you feeling? Nervous, sir, Devin admitted honestly. Mitchell laughed. Good. That means you understand this matters. Have a seat. They sat in comfortable chairs near the windows, not across the formal desk. Mitchell had coffee waiting, along with pastries Devin had never seen before. Devin, I've been thinking about you nonstop since Tuesday night, not just because you saved my life, though I'll never forget that. It's because of who you are. Sir? I've had my staff do some research. Your grades, your teacher recommendations, your work at Hassan's store. Miss Rodriguez says you're the most naturally gifted student she's taught in 20 years. Devin shifted uncomfortably. I just try to do my best. Exactly, and your best is extraordinary. Mitchell leaned forward. I want to offer you something, but first I need you to understand why. Mitchell walked to his desk and picked up a thick folder. These are the applications for our state youth leadership program. 500 of the brightest kids in California applied this year. We accepted 12. He handed Devin an official document. At the top, in bold letters, conditional acceptance, Devin Washington. Devin's hands trembled as he read. But I never applied. I know. I'm making an exception. Mitchell sat back down. Devin, what you did that night showed me something I rarely see anymore. Pure moral courage. No calculation, no agenda, just doing what's right because it's right. Sir, I don't understand. Here's what I'm offering you. Full scholarship to UC Berkeley or UCLA. Your choice. 4 years, everything covered. Housing, meals, books, everything. Devin's mouth fell open. Governor Mitchell, that's impossible. I could never afford. You're not listening, son. Full scholarship. Paid for by the governor's emergency education fund. Mitchell continued before Devin could respond. Additionally, starting this summer, a paid internship in my office. 20 hours a week during the school year, full-time in summers. You'll work directly with my policy team on education and community development initiatives. Devin felt dizzy. Sir, why would you do this? Because Tuesday night you showed me what true leadership looks like, and because everything you told me about wanting to help your community. I've seen your neighborhood, Devin. I grew up in East Oakland. I know what it's like. Mitchell pulled out another document. There's more. Your mother, Angela, works double shifts cleaning hospital floors, correct? Yes, sir, but... The state health department has an opening for a community health coordinator. Better hours, better pay, full benefits. Your mother is qualified, and I'd like to recommend her. Devin stared in shock. My mom? And your siblings. There are excellent schools in Sacramento. If your family chooses to relocate, we can arrange housing assistance through state programs. The room spun around Devin. Everything he'd ever dreamed of for his family was being offered on a silver platter. I can't. Devin struggled to find words. Mitchell's voice became gentle. Devin, you saved my life. But more than that, you reminded me why I went into public service in the first place. To find young people like you and give them the tools to change the world. But I'm just a kid from the projects. So was I. Look where I am now. Mitchell smiled. Devin, I've met senators' sons who couldn't show half the leadership you displayed in that parking garage. Devin's eyes filled with tears. Sir, this is too much. I don't deserve... Stop. Mitchell's voice was firm but kind. Don't you dare tell me you don't deserve opportunities. You risked your life for a stranger. You put yourself in danger to save someone else. That's not luck, Devin. That's character. Mitchell handed him a pen and a contract. I'm offering you a pathway to become the leader your community needs, but the choice is yours. Devin stared at the documents through blurry eyes. University, internship, a future for his whole family. What if I fail? What if I'm not smart enough? Devin, you outmaneuvered 3 armed criminals with nothing but a tire iron and quick thinking. You're smart enough. Devin thought about his father's words. When someone needs help, you don't walk away. Maybe this was his chance to help not just one person, but thousands of people in communities like his own. Can I call my mom? Mitchell smiled. Of course. But first, I want you to know, this isn't charity, Devin. This is an investment. I'm betting on you to become the kind of leader this state needs. Devin wiped his eyes and picked up the pen. Thank you, Governor Mitchell. I won't let you down. Son, you already haven't. As Devin signed his name, he realized he was signing more than a contract. He was signing the beginning of a completely new life. 6 months later, the ripple effects of one brave act were still growing stronger every day. Good morning, this is Channel 7 News. Tonight at 11, we'll feature Devin Washington, the local hero turned state capitol intern whose courage has sparked a revolution in youth leadership programs. Devin smiled as he walked across UC Berkeley's campus, backpack full of political science textbooks. The news van had been following his story for months, documenting his transformation from struggling high school student to rising political star. Back home, his family's apartment in Sacramento was a world away from their old, cramped space. Angela Washington arrived home from her new job as community health coordinator at 5:30 p.m. sharp. No more double shifts. No more choosing between groceries and rent. How was work, Mom? Keisha asked, looking up from homework at their new kitchen table. Amazing, baby. We launched 3 new health clinics in underserved neighborhoods today, communities just like where we used to live. Marcus, now thriving at his new middle school, added proudly, My teacher says I might qualify for the gifted program next year. Angela smiled, thinking about how Devin's courage had lifted their entire family into a future they'd never dared imagine. At the state capitol, Devin's internship had evolved into something unprecedented. Governor Mitchell had created a new position just for him, Youth Community Liaison. Devin, the Riverside Community Center project is approved, Sarah announced, handing him a thick folder. Full funding for after-school programs, tutoring services, and job training. Devin grinned. Riverside was his old neighborhood, the same place where he'd worked at Hassan's store where kids like him needed real opportunities. Mr. Hassan had been one of the first to benefit from Devin's policy recommendations. The small business grant program Devin helped design had allowed Hassan to expand his store into a full community resource center. Devin, my boy, Hassan called out when Devin visited the following weekend. Look at this place. The former corner store now housed computer stations for students, a small library, and meeting rooms for neighborhood organizations. A sign by the door read, Hassan Community Center, funded by the Governor's Neighborhood Investment Initiative. You did this, Hassan said, tears in his eyes. You believed in our community. Devin shook his head. We all did this together. Miss Rodriguez had also seen her career transformed. Governor Mitchell, following Devon's recommendation, had appointed her as special advisor on education equity. Devon Washington was the most naturally gifted leader I ever taught, she told a packed auditorium at Jefferson High. But more than that, he never forgot where he came from. The audience, filled with students from Devon's old neighborhood, erupted in applause. Several held up signs reading "Devon for Governor 2050. Back at the Capitol, Devon's policy work was making measurable differences. The Youth Leadership Scholarship Program had expanded from 12 recipients to 50. The Community Health Clinic Initiative was operating in 15 neighborhoods across the state. These numbers are remarkable, Governor Mitchell said during their weekly mentor meeting. Youth crime is down 18% in communities with our new programs. High school graduation rates are up 12%. It's working because we're giving kids real hope, Devon replied. When young people see a path to success, they take it. Media attention continued to grow. Devon appeared on national news programs speaking about youth leadership and community development. Magazine covers featured him as young leader to watch and the future of American politics. But Devon's favorite moment came during a visit to his old elementary school. Third graders gathered around as he read them stories about courage and kindness. "Mr. Devon," a little girl named Maria asked, "how did you become so important?" Devon knelt down to her level. "I'm not important because of my job, Maria. I'm important because I try to help people, just like you can help people." "Really?" "Really. You don't have to be grown up to be a hero. You just have to care about others." The ripple effects extended beyond policy and programs. Other young people across the state began stepping up in their communities. Devon received hundreds of letters from teenagers who'd started tutoring programs, volunteer organizations, and community gardens. One letter particularly moved him. "Dear Devon, I saw your story on TV. Last week I helped an elderly man who fell on my street. He turned out to be a retired teacher who's now helping me with college applications. You showed me that helping others always comes back to help you too. Thank you for proving that kids like us can make a difference. Jasmine Rodriguez, age 16 inches. Every success story reinforced what Devon had learned that night in the parking garage. One act of courage can create waves of positive change that spread far beyond what anyone imagines. The boy who'd once worried about bus fare was now shaping policies that affected millions of people. But his greatest pride came from knowing that kids in neighborhoods like his old one now had hope for futures they'd never dared dream. And then Devon faced a moment that would test everything he'd learned about the power of helping others. 2 years later, Devon walked across UC Berkeley's campus after his evening constitutional law class. As a junior, he was already being recruited by top law schools and political organizations. Near the parking structure, he heard raised voices with a cruel edge. "Go back where you came from. We don't want your kind here." Devon's steps quickened. Around the corner, 3 local troublemakers surrounded a young Asian student clutching his backpack. "Please, I just want to go to my car," the student said in accented English. Devon felt familiar recognition, someone vulnerable needing help, someone he could walk past or defend. This time was different. Devon wasn't the scared teenager anymore. He was the governor's protege, a rising political star. Getting involved could damage his reputation. For a split second, Devon hesitated. Then his father's voice echoed, "When someone needs help, you don't walk away. Hey!" Devon stepped forward with confidence learned from leadership training. "That's enough." The harassers turned, sizing up this well-dressed young man who wasn't intimidated. "This doesn't concern you, college boy." "Actually, it does," Devon said calmly. "This is my campus. He's my fellow student, and you're leaving now." Devon's tone carried authority, the voice of someone accustomed to being heard. The harassers looked uncertain and walked away grumbling. Devon turned to the student. "Are you okay?" "Yes, thank you. I am Kenji Tanaka, a pre-med student from Japan. Devon Washington Political Science." Kenji's eyes lit up with recognition. "Devon Washington? The governor's intern? I read about you?" Devon smiled. "Just someone who believes in helping others." Walking to the parking area, Kenji shared his struggles adapting to American culture, academic pressure, and loneliness. "It gets easier," Devon assured him. "You're not alone. There are people who want to help. At Kenji's car, Devin pulled out his business card. Devin Washington, policy intern, Office of the Governor. If you ever need anything, help with campus, study partner, or just coffee, call me. Kenji accepted the card gratefully. You probably saved me from much worse tonight. Devin thought about Governor Mitchell's words. You reminded me why I went into public service. Now Devin understood completely. This was how kindness spread. One person helping another, creating endless chains of compassion. That's what we do for each other, Devin said. Watching Kenji drive away safely, Devin realized he'd come full circle. From the boy who received life-changing help to the young man who could provide it. The cycle of kindness continued just as it should. Devin's story reminds us that heroism isn't about superpowers or special abilities. It's about choosing courage when it matters most. Every single day, we have opportunities to change someone's life. A moment of bravery, a simple act of kindness, standing up for what's right, even when it's scary. What if we all looked for chances to help? What if we stopped walking past people who need us? Devin was just a 17-year-old kid with nothing but a good heart, but that one choice to help a stranger created ripples that are still changing lives today. If Devin's story inspired you, share it with someone who needs hope. Hit that like button if you believe in the power of everyday heroes, and subscribe to join our community of people who know that kindness can change the world. Tell us in the comments, have you ever had a moment when someone's kindness changed your life? Or when you helped someone and it led to something amazing? Remember, you never know when your act of courage might save the day. Because in a world that needs more heroes, you might be exactly what someone is waiting for.